Hello. As you guys can see, I am not in my house. I straight up was not planning on making this video. I just, I saw Obsession and the movie's good. And I'm waiting in between classes for my other university class, so I don't really have much time to make this video. But I have some bullet points, and so I want to talk about this movie. All right, this is the type of movie that makes me feel alive. I could talk about Nikki here as much as everybody else, but genuinely, there's just like so much to unpack. That's the type of performance that makes you go, hell yeah! The type of acting that makes you go, holy crap, humans, they can do this? And like, I am so inspired by how enthralled I was watching this movie. The sound design, it's like it's speaking to you. It plays this hazy music throughout the whole thing, and what it does is only activates, I don't know how much I want to spoil the movie, right? But I'll stay spoiler free right now until I can come up. I'll give a spoiler warning when it's spoiler time, okay? So this is still like the basic premise of the movie. This guy asks the girl out, he doesn't get the guts to do it, so he makes a wish, and it's a bad wish to make her love him. So I love that when this happens, the hazy music is always playing, and it's always playing this hypnotic and like hazy sound, and it's only active whenever Nikki is being lovey-dovey and like whatever eldritch beast is possessing her is like, being freaking creepy. And you get the impression that she's still fighting back behind the acting the entire time, and whenever she finally breaks out and she's speaking and she gets like a millisecond where she's like saying something, that's the only time the music stops. And it's to like represent that like this hazy hypnosis that the music is trying to like portray is the feeling that it's giving us of being mesmerized by the movie is how like she feels inside her own body. Like she's disassociating and she's losing the track of time as this creepy, freaking scary thing is using her body to fulfill this guy's wish. And the music, I feel, call me a little bit crazy, I feel like it's like Schrodinger's cat, right? No pun intended if you see the movie. Because this easily could be seen as eerie to some people, and it could easily be calming to others. And I feel like in that sense, this music is both how Bear would feel and how Nikki, the possessed Nikki, would feel in the movie, where like one of them is comforted and the other one is spooked. And I just think that's so cool, man. Oh my. And the camera, it can't slack, of course, because this movie is just so good. And what it does is that instead of cutting dynamically, right? Cut to cut, shot to shot, fast action camera, blurry, fast-paced cuts. No, it doesn't really do that. What it does is it does a lot of static, still shots, right? And the shots, they zoom slowly. And these slow zooms are like also adding to the mesmerizing tone, right? And they like entrance and immerse you. And I feel like this is a really funny way to put it. This is a really funny example I want to say, because this is what I was feeling through the movie. This is the first time I watched the movie and I could tell how tall and short everyone was. Now, I know that sounds weird, right? Okay, but like hear me out, okay? Because I'm someone who's 5'11". That's not that tall, but it's tall enough where if I see someone online and I meet them in person, 9 times out of 10, I have that little split second where I meet them and I'm like, oh, you're kind of short. And like, not in a bad way. It's just like, oh shoot, I thought you were so tall based because your Zoom camera or your Discord camera, it was always like at a high level. I thought we were the same height. And so in movies, you don't really get that. People are usually wearing height pads and stuff so that you can't see their height. They look more heroic and grand. But in this movie, the camera is always at eye level, at least for the first 20 minutes, right? The first 20 minutes is trying to make you feel like you're part of this friend group and part of these people. And so it uses the camera to immerse you like you're in the friend group. And what I noticed is there's this one shot where the movie's still trying to guilt trip you into being like, wow, Nikki is such a good person. Her life is so perfect. It's gonna all work out. Nothing could ever happen to her. And you know, I got the dramatic irony before it even happened. And she's giving money to a homeless person, and then as she's running to the camera, it's supposed to be like she's running to Bear. I was like, I had that moment in the theater. I was like, whoa, she's kind of short. And you know, again, it wasn't a bad thing. It's just like, wow, I feel like I'm there in the friend group with them. I was just so immersed. And then there are some shots at the beginning, right, where Nikki still has her autonomy and she's being really, you know, forthcoming to Bear. And you know, there's a debate about whether Nikki ever liked Bear, and I am of the opinion that there was something there, right? She starts talking about how a love life is different from a romance, how if she was ever liking somebody, she would ever hide it. And the only person that tells us that, like, because there's a line in the movie that, like, apparently she friend-zoned him and says he's like a little brother to her. The person who says this, actually, no, this is okay. We're entering mild spoilers, but the person who says this also likes the guy, right? The person who tells us this information likes the guy. And this is a friend group that is known to lie, because we just saw the guy character lie about making it a boys' night at a party, right? These guys clearly are not telling the truth. So I was of the opinion that they still like each other, or they had something before. Obviously she didn't like him at the end, right? You know, straight up, you know, that's a fine opinion. I think that's true, right? But anyways, at the very beginning, when it's still trying to personify this friend group, I thought some of the shots where the eyes of the characters are looking straight at the camera and like looking at us were also really immersive. It was to the point where whenever Nikki and Bear were gazing at each other, for starters, they would never gaze to each other in a single camera shot. They would look straight at the camera. And I thought that was so good, because I was looking at them and I was like low-key getting secondhand embarrassment. I was like, yo guys, are you guys having a moment? I want to move out of the way, you know, like look at each other, not me. And so all of these little like unique camera decisions are so impactful, and they're constant. There's always something new being thrown that is just so interesting to unpack. And then where the first half of the movie is like focused on the characters and their eyes and them looking at you, the second half of the movie is very much focused on not them. It's always focusing on something else, and that makes you unsettled because you get that feeling that something's gonna come. I feel like a big moment is the car scene. No spoilers yet, no spoilers, but the car scene, it's focused on the window pane. And that window pane, for that entire 2-minute scene, I was like, dude, when is it gonna show up? When is it gonna show up? And like, there are other scenes where Bear is standing up at the bar and he like tries to get out of sight to call his friend and talk about, whoa, what the frick? This is a weird thing that's going on with this girl. She like screams if I don't cuddle with her, what do I do? The moment he's out of frame, the moment he's off center of the camera and he becomes out of sight, you can see in the back the blur of Nikki standing up and coming and like noticing. And I just like the way it messes with focus, man. Oh wow, man. I of course want to talk about the themes, because I think that's possibly the biggest part, and that's the part I want to like hear more people's opinions on the most, because it's so complex, right? Of course, the big one is we think Nikki is obsessed with Bear, and that's the premise of the movie, because that's the premise of the movie. But the actual obsession of the movie is Bear obsessing over Nikki's to the point where he sacrifices her to like get her obsessed with him. And I think that alone is like a really great dichotomy that I took in and like was taken aback by. But then there's other stuff, like the fact that Bear was obsessed with the idea of Nikki instead of Nikki herself. I would say that this movie is honestly pro-love. I would say it is empowering to love couples, but by showing you what not to do. Because if you think about it, what is the movie telling you? It told Bear that to make Nikki love her, they had to give him someone that wasn't Nikki. And what that tells me, the way I interpreted that, is that love is something so interwoven and complex and multifaceted. Something that you cannot just like pluck out and turn on and off. It's something that's rooted in our backstories, in our past, in our personalities, in our characteristics. That you cannot just change it and manipulate it willy-nilly. And that it's a message to the happy couples of the world that the love you experience is genuine and special. It's like, wow, if you do have a happy relationship, realize how special that is. And then for the ones who don't, why it's such a problem to try to force it, you know? And I thought that was fascinating to look at. And something else that I obviously can't speak on is the women perspective of this movie. This movie has a bunch of sexual abuse allegories, and I'm a dude in my 20s, right? I'm open-minded to other people's perspectives, but I want to learn what other people say, because I'm really fascinated by the idea of when did people stop caring for Bear? Because I think depending on who you are and what you've experienced, everyone has a different turning point, right? Because I think for me, it was probably the dinner scene jump scare. After that, it was just kind of like this willy-nilly of like half back and forth of me feeling like he was doing some stupid things, and on the other hand, wow, I felt so bad for him. Because I do think there is a lens, right? There's gonna be a lot of people that talk about how Nikki is a victim, and right, and it's horrifying, and it moved me as well, because there was a halfway point through the movie where I realized, yeah, no one's getting a good ending. Like, wow, it's just like, this is such a tragic experience, and it shows you how why this is such a dangerous idea for a guy to have, and like what the problems are, right? But I also want to think about the fact that like this eldritch being was abusing Bear as well, because if he like tried to leave cuddling, the girl was like screaming like, ah! He's like, no, don't leave. Or he would like have to get watched while he's sleeping or like junk. And on that aspect, there's also like a level of like, it does speak to the fact that, you know, guys like that with those problems, you know, they don't know what they want, you know, and sometimes when they get what they want, they become unsatisfied. That's one way to look at it. And another way to look at it is like, wow, there are people who are in abusive relationships and they can't do anything about it, and they can't tell people about it. And so again, all of these facets, all of these things it talks about, I'm just so fascinated by. The fact that like it's a debate on whether like Nikki even liked him in the beginning, you know, I think that's an interesting thing. I don't think there's a right answer. And I think that's also what speaks to the power of it as well. And so yeah, damn, what a movie. You know, I had to get this out because I don't really talk about film bro things. I don't even know how I'm gonna find footage for this, because there's barely any footage for what I'm talking about for the movie right now. It's gonna probably just be a lot of me taking a look at like on my thing, on my window while I'm talking, because I get anxiety looking at you guys. If I had to say some negatives, the big one for me is that there's a story nitpick, and that's that he could have just paid a random guy $100 to say, hey, listen to me. $100, you wish to undo my wish, and you break this random toy, and then he would have done it. You know, the movie, there would have been no movie. But they do establish that our main character is a chud. They establish he's a chud, so he's not the smartest guy. Anyways, some actual spoiler thoughts. Gonna talk about a spoiler, just the ending, like for like 10 seconds. I really think it's fascinating that this guy never does anything right. Even ending the movie, he was about to vomit the suicide pills before he got controlled, and he would have stayed alive, and he would have been happy with this possessed. They would have suffered for 80 years or whatever until they were old grandparents, if it wasn't for Nikki doing it to herself. It was like her own downfall and also her own redemption, because, you know, there's two Nickis, there's a bad one and a good one. It's just a good juxtaposition. I don't even really know what to make of it. It's just something I noticed and I really like. I also thought it was really really nice. What sets Nikki off in the very first 20 minutes is that he says freaky Nikki, and you could infer that she hears that from Ian all the time with their casual romance, and so the moment she hears it, she's like, what the frick? Is he talking to you? Do you like me? You know, it makes sense, and it's like a good foreshadowing, a subtle foreshadowing. I don't know if we needed to foreshadow the cat overdosing as a foreshadowing that the pills are gonna kill him. Like, I got the idea, guys. But yeah, okay, this movie, amazing, right? So I think I'm gonna give it a tentative, I don't want to seem too nice, but I think this is my movie of the year contender right now. People who say movies are dead, y'all are lying. We got Heat coming up, bro. And then the year's like not even halfway done, bro. I would give this movie a 10 out of 10. Now I gotta go back to my class.